rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome to our November the 12th Select Board meeting. A couple of announcements. Matt Often and I will host an Ask Me Anything at the South Grafton Community House on Thursday, November 21st at 7 p.m. The Select Board's AMAs are an opportunity for residents to ask a variety of questions and learn more about anything happening in town. So please encourage everyone to come. That's next Thursday. The Metro West Building Officials is proud to sponsor a warm and joyful Thanksgiving dinner that will be held at the Grafton Senior Center on Thanksgiving Day, November 28th, 2024, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. This event is open to seniors from Grafton, Millbury, Northborough, Northbridge, Sutton, and Upton, age 60 and over. If you'd like to participate, volunteer, or attend, please contact Nancy Malone of the Council on Aging at 508-839-9242 or via email at maloneen@grafton-ma.gov to reserve your seat. Those hosting the event are committed to ensuring everyone enjoys a special day, so if you require special accommodations, please let them know. I'm sure that information is also available on the website and at the Senior Center. Okay, so Mr. Alamo for the public hearing.
The Grafton Select Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, November 12th, 2024 at 7 p.m. on the question of the adoption of the percentages of the local tax levy to be borne by each class of real property and personal property for the next fiscal year in accordance with Chapter 40, Section 56 of the General Laws. The meeting will be held in Conference Room A of the Grafton Municipal Center at 30 Providence Road. Remote participation will be available and the link will be posted on the November 12, 2024 Select Board agenda. At such hearing, the Board of Assessors will provide all of the information and data relevant to making such determination and the fiscal effect of the available alternatives. The Commissioner of Revenue will not approve the tax rate of a town until the Select Board has held such a public hearing and until the town has adopted the percentage of the local tax levy to be borne by each class of real and personal property. If you have a question to ask or a comment to offer but cannot participate in the public hearing, you may submit the same by emailing taoffice@grafton-ma.gov, by written letter sent via USPS, or by hand delivery to the Town Administrator's Office, Grafton Municipal Center, 30 Providence Road. All must be received by November 6, 2024. And that's the Grafton Select Board.
Motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. So we'll have Tammy come on up. Welcome, Tammy, and the board.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Tammy Kalinowski, Principal Assessor for the Town of Grafton. I'm here today with my board member, Aleki Musumba, my assistant, Megan Lavoie, and our new data collector, Jamie Kerbel. The purpose of the classification hearing is to provide information to the Select Board in order for them to make policy decisions in according with the requirements of Chapter 40, Section 56 of the Massachusetts General Laws as amended by Chapter 200 of the Acts of 1988. Every year at a public hearing, the Select Board, through the recommendation of the Board of Assessors, is empowered to determine the allocation of local property tax to become borne by the four classes of real property and personal property for the upcoming fiscal year. In the past, the Select Board has chosen to have a single tax rate. However, they are legally justified in deciding to split the rate in order to reduce the residential taxes or to manage the levy split. The public classification hearing allows for the Select Board to hear from all taxpayers in town before exercising their judgment to find the most appropriate distribution of the property tax burden. Tonight, the classification hearing consists of 4 votes to be taken by the Select Board. The first is the selection of the residential factor. The second is the residential exemption. The third is a small commercial exemption, and the fourth is the open space discount. This slide, back one. This slide is just for general information. It shows what our fiscal 2025 assessment date is, January 1 of 2024. It also shows this year we were in a reval, so it shows that we had preliminary certification September 27th of 2024. We then had public disclosure period where anybody in the public could come in and discuss the proposed values. After that disclosure period was closed, we received final certification on October 18th, 2024, and our new growth was approved by the Department of Revenue on the same date. The next full revaluation year is in 2030. This slide shows a 5-year period of our property assessments. As you can see, there was an overall increase in property value. The total value of the town for fiscal 2025 is $4,213,965,172. These figures are based on market sales that took place between January 1st of 23 and December 31st of 23. This is just these next two slides. This one shows the residential portion of the property and the increases over a 5-year period, single family condos, 2 families, 3 families, and our apartments. As you can see, the single families increased the most. The next slide shows the commercial, industrial, and personal property increases over the past 5 years. Okay, what is allowable tax rate growth? It's anything subject to taxation for the first time, new articles of personal property, previously exempt property that is now taxable, anything that's taxed as a separate parcel for the first time, which is a subdivision or condominiums, increase in assessed valuation over the prior year due to any kind of construction activity. What is not considered growth is any market adjustments that we did through the reval process, or any value increases due to upkeep and maintenance of the property. This chart shows what our new growth value is by class, the residential, commercial, industrial, and personal property. We captured $88,723,950 in new growth, which translates into new tax revenue in the amount of $1,269,641 for fiscal 2025. These are just some of the important terms that you're going to hear throughout the presentation and what those definitions are. And the next slide is our tax levy comparison over the past 5 years. In the bottom column, that's everything for fiscal 2025. The next slide shows our historical tax levy. The next slide shows all of our historical tax rates. How is the tax rate determined? The tax rate is determined by taking the total levy divided by the total of the town's property value. This year, the proposed tax rate is $13.94. Property values increased from last fiscal year to this fiscal year by $264,973,552, and the new parcel and the parcel count has increased by 75 parcels. The next slide shows what our median values are in fiscal 2024. This was the average single family value was $596,235. Times the tax rate from last year of $14.31 gave an average bill for single family of $8,532. This year, the average single family value is $625,767. times the proposed tax rate would get you an average single-family bill of $8,723. This is an increase of $191 from last fiscal year. If you remember last fiscal year, I believe it increased over $500 from one fiscal year to another. So it is a smaller increase this year. This chart shows the increase of both the value and the average tax bill for single-family homes over a 10-year period, and as you can see, we're still increasing. Okay, the residential factor. So a factor of 1, which is what we've chosen in the past and recommended, is a selection of a single tax rate that all 4 property classes will pay at the same rate. This is the recommendation of the Board of Assessors. A factor of less than 1. The law allows this option to shift the tax burden among the classes, reducing the share of tax levy paid by the residential property owners and shifting or increasing those taxes to the commercial, industrial, and personal property taxpayers through the adoption of a residential factor of less than 1. A factor of greater than 1, conversely, will have the opposite effect, reducing the share of the levy paid by the commercial and industrial and personal property taxpayers and shifting it or increasing it to the residential property owners. And this is, the next slide shows all the split tax rates for the residential and the commercial and industrial. Although splitting the rate will decrease the average single family tax bill, it will significantly increase the commercial, industrial, and personal property tax bill. So you can see it shows what the average tax bill for the single family is in the middle, and then what the commercial increase would be should you split that tax rate. And this next slide shows a comparison of what it would do. So the commercial would go up greatly where there's a very little decrease for the residential. By statute, the select board can grant an exemption up to 35% of the average assessed value of the residential properties used as a principal residence of the owner. Adopting a residential exemption increases the residential tax rate as the residential share of the levy must be met. This higher rate creates a shift within the class that reduces the taxes paid by homeowners with moderately valued properties. Those taxes are then paid by the owner of rental properties, vacation homes, and higher valued homes. There are 18 communities that have adopted this exemption. Grafton has not adopted it. And as you can see, if you look at some of the towns here, you'll see a lot of these are vacation towns close to the Cape. Some of them are college towns that rent. The next thing is the small commercial exemption. Adopting the small commercial exemption shift the tax burden up to 10% from the eligible commercial parcels to the non-eligible commercial parcels and industrial parcels. Commercial parcels must be valued at no more than 1 million and have 10 or fewer full-time employees at all locations. If adopted, this exemption would shift the tax burden from the commercial parcels occupied by small business parcels or to parcels occupied by larger commercial and industrial businesses. There are 14 communities that have adopted this exemption. Grafton has never adopted this. The next is the open space exemption. This allows city and towns to tax open space properties at a rate discounted up to 25% of the uniform tax rate. This exemption has no impact on the overall tax levy of the town or the total levy assigned to the residential properties. This exemption has no impact on commercial, industrial, personal property taxation. The tax dollars lost by this discount are shifted to the residential class of properties, which includes developable vacant land. Only one community in Massachusetts out of 352 grant this open space discount, and that's Bedford at 25%. The open space exemption should not be confused with the Community Preservation Act, chapter land parcels, or town's open space parcels. It is the recommendation of the Board of Assessors that, one, the Select Board vote on a residential factor of 1 for fiscal 2025, which will continue our historical single tax rate. That the Select Board vote no on the residential exemption, the small commercial exemption, and the open space discount. And that the Select Board vote to authorize the Principal Assessor to electronically sign and submit the FY 25 LA 5 through the Department of Revenue's gateway. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Tammy. Any questions from the board for Tammy?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Opton?
Tammy, I'm just wondering if there's been any analysis on the small commercial exemption in terms of if we were to do that, what would the impact be? Similar to what you did with the, split tax rate. It's something I'm interested in, but I have some suspicions that it might not work out for certain businesses.
We haven't done any, but in the past, we just don't have enough to do it. I can look into it, and I can certainly meet and discuss that with you if that's something that you're interested in.
Okay, I guess I'd throw it out to the board if that's something that the board would be interested in, but, if we could incentivize small businesses with a slightly lower tax rate, I just don't know who that would impact as far as the large commercial. I don't know who that would be and how it would impact them in terms of their tax bill, but it seems to me that a lot of the larger facilities that have more employees, more equipment, that kind of stuff, they potentially could afford a little bit more taxes if we could give a break to the small tax owners or small business owners. It's just an idea.
Yeah, so the small businesses have to be, keep in mind, they have to be valued at least at $1 million and have 10 or fewer full-time employees. So a lot of our smaller businesses, I don't think meet that threshold.
Okay. I was thinking startups, but I
Yeah.
just don't know. So
Yeah.
if your guidance is we just don't have enough of those
Yeah.
for that to make any sense, then I trust you.
I can look a little more into it and give you some numbers if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd be interested in it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no harm in that.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anyone else?
I'm sure.
Yep, Mr. Jefferson?
Just want to thank you for coming in, all of you, and you walk us through this every year and break it down, I think, in a very digestible way. So appreciate you coming in and doing that.
Thank you.
And I know you have to, but it's
Don't
it's
have a
always
choice.
It's a thorough presentation. I think you explain things well, and just want to say thanks.
Thank you.
Any public comment? Well, anything else from the board, sorry? Any public comment here or online?
No hands on Zoom.
Okay, then Mr. Alamo or someone else.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0. And I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead, Mr. Alamo.
I move the board vote to adopt a residential factor of 1.0, no residential exemption, no small commercial exemption, and no open space discount, and to authorize the principal assessor to electronically sign and submit the fiscal year 2025 LA-5 through the DOR gateway.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thanks so much, Tammy, your board, your staff,
I
and,
need those
yep. so just
Thanks,
signed.
Tammy. Great.
Thank you.
and Mark.
Great job, Tammy.
I signed it.
Just the last page.
I did sign it.
Can I come clean?
Mm-hmm. Got a very efficient board here, Tammy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
I think last year I wasn't here and there was a delay on the tail end of that, so we just, Tammy requested that we have it all wrapped up tonight.
Whoa.
Flying through it.
Sorry?
Flying through it.
Okay, so, sorry, moving on to appointments. The first we have is Council on Aging, and I believe one person was not able to come in. Am I correct?
Kate is unable to come in, but she will be in on the 19th, I believe.
Okay, and is Kathy here? Yeah. Hi. Hi, Kathy, do you want to just come on up and just to tell us.
Presentation to follow.
No, yeah, no. Just a little teeny bit about you and why you're interested in this.
Hi,
particular
so
position.
my name's Kathy Brown. I've been a resident of Grafton for about 7.5 years, and I love this town. I'm by career, I'm a lawyer of about 25 years. I worked in the court system, the family court, mostly domestic relations. Did some guardianship and conservator work. And now I'm back in private practice. I actually represent some elders, and I find it very fulfilling. So I just saw this come along. I wanted to get interested in the community. My neighbor, who I'm pretty close with, she uses a senior center all the time. So I saw it and thought that's kind of right up my alley. Something I just like to be involved in.
Great.
I love Grafton.
Thank you. Thank you for volunteering or offering to volunteer. Any questions from the board for Kathy? Okay,
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo.
I move the board vote to appoint Kathy Brown and Kate,
Nope, just Kathy for
just
today.
Kathy Brown, to the Council on Aging.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Thank you so
Okay,
much, Kathy,
great.
for
Thank you
standing.
so much.
stepping
Thank you.
up and for coming in tonight. So we will have Kate come in next week. Okay, and so I'll have the planning board join in and open their meeting. We'll have a joint meeting with the planning board relative to the associate member.
Good evening. Good evening, sir.
All right, so I'll call the planning board portion of this meeting to order. We'll begin with a roll call of the planning board members. Bob Hassinger,
I'm here.
Greg Delamole,
Here.
Justin Wood,
Present.
Prabhu Venkatraman,
Here.
and David Robbins is present.
Okay, great. So we can have both candidates come up and just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested, and then we'll go from there. I can start with Ray.
Ray Mead, 217 Brigham Hill Road. I'm very familiar with the zoning bylaws of the town of Grafton. I've actually spent more time on the other side, on the presentation side of planning boards in all New England states and Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And I think with my knowledge of the town and my knowledge of the zoning bylaws, that I would make a good candidate.
Any questions from either board or Ray?
You can't come up with anything, Bob?
Justin?
Well,
I was, he was.
I had
We
had
can,
a question you just answered, mostly.
you can wait. Justin has his hand up online if we
Yep.
want to start there.
Sure. So, Ray, just can you briefly tell us about your philosophy when it comes to development in town and like business, residential, apartments versus single family, et cetera, just briefly?
Well, I've always been in favor of more business than residential. You know, residential really doesn't pay the bills, and I'm looking at Justin on the TV there. Residential really doesn't pay the bills, but you know, commercial industrial does pay the bills, and that's what I'm more interested in.
Thank you.
And you mentioned being on the presentation side, so what were you presenting to the different boards that you worked with?
Mostly in the healthcare industry, new buildings, additions to buildings, and then I work for BJ's Wholesale, so we presented for BJ's Wholesale.
Were you the lead presenter in those? Or
Yes.
Did you have a lawyer?
In the healthcare, well, in the healthcare side, I was the lead presenter. We had corporate lawyers, but they said
And you feel comfortable with the way the planning board works?
no, not at all.
Who does?
Okay.
No, really. No. I think. No, Bob. That was a good question. Do I think? Am I comfortable with the way the planning board operates? I think the planning board could be a little bit more efficient. You know, but and I know you didn't like that, but I really do. I believe that the board could be a little more efficient. If there's something that I could help in that area, then that's what I do.
Efficient in what way?
In what way?
Yeah, I mean,
There's
Fiona's been doing a lot of getting stuff ready.
Fiona is wonderful. She is absolutely fantastic. I just think that some of the meetings last longer than they actually should last, and there's a lot of and I'll say minutia that goes on, and not saying I'm gonna change that, but that's my I've been before many planning boards. I've been before this Grafton Planning Board 5 times. Yeah, back in the 80s.
So you get to see a wide variety. Which
There's a wide. I've seen a wide variety. In 8 states, and it's different. Some planning boards and some towns and municipalities have technical review committees. Now, technical review committee is totally different than the planning board. The planning board makes their same. They do the public hearings, they make the same decisions and everything like that, but the technical review committee takes care of all of the stuff that goes into that, what the decision is. We don't have that. So that's when I'm talking about if you make it more efficient, the technical review committee does make it more efficient.
You were doing that in the 80s. That was a different time.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't have gray hair.
I wasn't on the board.
Yeah, you
Got
were.
on in 91.
Did you really? Then it was in the 90s.
Oh, I see.
Late 80s or 90s, I don't know.
You're a big
you know,
Right.
Bob, don't test my memory, please. I test it every day.
I'll just, Prabhu, you've had your hand up?
Yes. Hi. So not a question, but more just an observation and an input on Ray. I started interacting with Ray when he was our town moderator. Then I have seen him work on the select board. I actually worked very closely with him on the EDC, where he brought in a very different perspective when he talks about efficiency, how he managed the agenda. I think he'll be a fresh breath of air on the planning board. I do feel that given my experiences in working with him, the partnership is fairly deep, and I think it'll be a good addition to the team.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Anyone else? Yep, Dave?
I would normally ask a candidate for a position on the planning board, what's your understanding of what the planning board does? I suspect you probably got a pretty good sense of that.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. It's not an easy job. It's very difficult, as you guys know. It's very difficult. That not everybody wants to build or wants to have built everything that comes before the board, and that takes a lot of patience and a lot of experience in what you do to either approve or disapprove.
Yeah, follow up on that though is outside of permit reviews, which you've been on the other side of, as you said, ample experience there. The planning board does have some other responsibilities. Zoning bylaws.
Yep.
Actual planning. The planning board is currently has undertaken the process of updating the master plan. So the board does more than just permit reviews.
No, I know that, Dave, and I know that over the past 5 years, the planning board has gone through the zoning bylaws and adjusted and made changes, and it comes up at every spring meeting and it comes up at every fall meeting to make adjustments based on what is going on now. So that is all part of the job.
Zoning bylaw review committee.
Yeah.
Bob was there.
It wasn't the sign, no, it was the sign
Didn't
committee.
last very long.
It was the sign committee, wasn't it?
No, it was the zoning bylaw review committee.
That was.
Oh, that didn't last long.
Yeah, I think it lasted 2 meetings.
Well, fist fight was going to break out, so we decided to,
Yeah.
before TV.
That was the last committee you and I served on.
That was the first one I ever served
Yeah.
on.
And you're still around.
I know. Not that smart.
Anyone else in person? Any other questions for Ray? Anyone via Zoom? Okay. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's say for a lot of us, Ray is a known quantity.
In more ways than one.
Okay,
And I'm
Larry.
not being derogative in that.
Larry, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Larry Perchik. I just moved to town in August. This is the first home I've ever owned, and I ventured out of Boston to come here. I continue working in Boston. I'm a practicing attorney. My focus is in litigation and healthcare law. I'm very excited to be here in Grafton, really enjoying the community very much so far. I'm expecting my first kid, a daughter, in a matter of weeks, and I have I would say a personal investment in seeing how the town moves forward, because of our coming here, because my kid's going to grow up here. So that brought me, when I saw the posting for this position, it drew me to apply.
Thanks, Larry. Any questions in the room? Or actually, go ahead, Justin.
Sure. So the same question I asked Ray, what's your general philosophy when it comes to development, like on business versus housing and single family versus apartments, etc.?
If I were to prefer one over the other, is that the question?
Just a short general idea on like what you view as being necessary. If it's all of the above, it's fine. Just understanding of how you view them and what you think of them in general and how you would generally try to weigh what Grafton needs in that respect.
I think development generally should follow a few guidelines. I think development should be done when necessary, but it should also be done in a way that preserves the character and the spirit of the area that it's being placed in. I think it should be done with an eye towards practicality and logistics. Just being new to the town, I would say perhaps there's room for some business development, but that's sort of my anecdotal experience at this point.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Couple questions.
Yeah, Craig?
Yeah, so you moved from Boston, so
Yeah.
did you do any public service while you were?
Yeah, I work for the state.
Well,
Did public service just today.
There you go, okay.
Yeah.
And how did you pick Grafton?
How did I pick Grafton? Well, I needed to be able to continue to commute to Boston.
Yeah.
I was definitely enticed by the commuter rail,
Okay.
which, now that I'm doing it, it's okay. A couple times a week, it's okay. My wife is able to work remotely, so that was less of a factor. We were interested in heading west because we have family further west, and obviously, the cost of Boston housing and cost of living in Boston was a deterrent to staying there. So we picked a few towns in this area and started looking at houses, and saw a couple in Grafton that we really loved and focused our search here.
Great. Well,
Thank you.
yeah.
So our housing is less expensive than Boston's?
I think so. Yeah, that's generally been my experience. Yeah.
Because what I've been hearing is that it's, still terrible.
Yeah, I just bought a place.
Where?
I'm in Stonegate Circle.
Nice neighborhood.
Yeah, it's been really nice so far.
So that's a new development.
My house was built in 2000. I think everything in the general area was built around that time.
To me, that's new.
That's off North Street, right? It's up north.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I was just, you just moved to town. We've got lots of openings. I know you're interested in ZBA and now planning. I'm just interested of all the opportunities for volunteering and getting involved. What sort of drew you to development and, both planning and ZBA?
Yeah, I think it's along the lines of what I mentioned, just being new here and seeing, what I would say is my impression of the town is that, while wonderful, it seems like the potential for growth is there, or that there's going to be some sort of change. And being new here and relatively young, I want to, and hopefully planning to stay around for a while. I'd like to steer it, or at least have a voice in steering it, I should say. Again, because my kid is going to live here for some chunk of time as well. I have a very personal investment. Meeting the people that I meet around the town, I think sort of furthers that investment. So that pushes me towards development and planning.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thanks so much for just repeated interest and being willing to volunteer. Really
Sure.
appreciate that.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, so my question is the one I didn't really need to ask Ray, even though I mentioned it because he's been around long enough to know a lot. But what's your understanding of what the planning board does, what the planning board's role is in town, and what are the important tasks that the planning board undertakes?
Yeah, I think it's generally involved in steering planning and development of buildings within the town, like different types of buildings, residential, the types of buildings that we were discussing earlier, residential, commercial, businesses, etc. And I understand there's also involvement in drafting and revising the zoning bylaws. I would offer that, given my legal background, I think that that could be a particular strength of mine, something that I could bring to this particular board.
Yeah, what familiarity do you have at this point with our zoning bylaw and our subdivision rules? Those are the principal elements for us.
Yeah, I would say I've, again, I moved here a few months ago and I'm expecting a baby. So, but I have taken a cursory look at all of them when deciding whether or not to submit an application for this position. Mm-hmm. So I have some familiarity with them, and I would again underscore that I think, given my professional background, it's something that I could acquaint myself with fairly quickly.
It's a twisted path, because we have discretion with, particularly with the special permits, but there are, as soon as you say no, the $3 million project sues you.
Well, I'm used to being sued.
Oh well, then that's well. So are we.
Yeah. Land use law and regulation is sometimes kind of convoluted. And
Sure.
There's law and there's law, and as you know, in your profession,
yeah,
you tend to specialize in particular areas of the law.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, but I also think, if you do. I don't want to drone on about being a lawyer because no one likes to to hear that.
Yeah, we don't need to go too far into that.
No, but I would just offer that although land use law, for example, is that's not where I make my bread. That's not my bread and butter, I mean to say. But I am familiar with taking legal text and parsing it out and understanding it. And while I often use the analogy like, if I needed shoulder surgery, I'd want it to be an orthopedist, but I'd take any kind of doctor over, a plumber. So I think that analogy carries over somewhat to law and legal analysis. And I think I'm fun to work with also. So.
Any other questions from either board? Andy?
Thank you. So with lots of multifamily expansion going on around town right now.
Yes.
Is that something you've paid attention to?
Yes. Yes. I mean, for the amount of time that I've been here, I'm aware that it's in the background. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any input you could offer us in how you'd go about guiding some of those projects?
Yeah, I'd bring it back to my earlier point, just about development generally, that it needs to be done in the first place. Multifamily affordable housing, I think, is an important initiative, but I still think that it needs to be done with an eye towards practicality and logistics. That is to say that because it's a cause that I feel strongly about, won't necessarily override like the practicality of installing, multifamily property or affordable housing property if it doesn't seem to fit either the character or the capabilities or the spirit of the town. So I think that I'd approach it very tactically, much like I would most other forms of development or any form of development, and it would start like that.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much, Larry.
Thank you very much.
So,
Madam Chair,
yeah.
would you take a motion?
Mhm.
I make a motion, we appoint Ray Mead as the associate member of the planning board.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
It's such a polar opposite, Ray's been here as long as I have. Longer. Well, you weren't, no.
Yeah.
And we have someone new, but he's got some good qualities.
Yep.
So it's hard.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and I would say this, we have two great candidates and, you know, Ray's obviously got a wealth of knowledge of the town in construction and development and Larry with his legal background, and he gave some really great answers, I thought, very thoughtful answers. So, I mean, you know, yeah, no, I know, no, it's great to have people coming forward.
Justin?
Yep. So I just want to say from what I've heard, I think Ray has to my perception, has a better grasp of what the planning board does currently, has a good knowledge of the town as it exists right now, and I feel he's the stronger candidate between the two. And that said, I was impressed with Larry's preparedness, excuse me, and I encourage him to continue to apply for other openings that he's interested in. The planning board is also an elected position, so if he's interested in running for the office, that's will come up in May for the next elections. And I'm sure the papers will be due earlier than that. But I encourage him to continue to apply, and any public hearing for the planning board, any meeting for the planning board or ZBA, we welcome public input and participation at any point for any project. So if he has thoughts or things he feels like he could help with, we still welcome his input, even if he's not a member of the board.
Any other discussion?
Just that I see value in new residents coming forward to get involved, and I hope that more people do.
I would echo your sentiment, Madam Chair. Yeah, I have a particular soft spot in my heart for a newcomer or someone who comes from out of the, not in town politics, to give it a shot, and a fresh face, fresh ideas, fresh perspective does mean something. I do get the sense that the board that you're applying for is probably a little bit more comfortable with Ray, and he certainly is. He comes with some cred for sure, street credibility for sure. He knows his way around this business. But I'd say, and if that is the case, then Larry, I would absolutely encourage you to try to find your way into volunteering for other positions, running for things, because you definitely have something to offer here for this town. And congratulations, welcome to the town. It's a beautiful neighborhood, a beautiful spot. So yeah, if you can see it, if that's the way it goes, and I think Ray's great for sure. That this should not be the end. If it happens to be that way, this should be the very beginning for you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just want to thank both of you for coming out, for applying for this. I'll echo what other folks said, that, it's such a dichotomy in terms of, the two applicants, but both highly qualified, and I think either could hop in. So I just want to say thank you to both of you for throwing your hat in the ring at the very least. And any other discussion at all? So we'll go ahead to a vote. And do you want to start with your committee?
Yeah, we'll call the roll of the planning board. Mr. Delamole?
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger?
Aye.
Mr. Wood?
Aye.
Mr. Venkatraman?
Aye.
And Mr. Robbins votes aye.
Okay. And select board, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. And I also, just to finish, I don't want that vote to sound like it was a resounding no to you, Larry. I hope you hear that.
Thank you.
And congratulations, Ray.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Ray. And let me add my thanks to you, Larry, for stepping up for this.
Okay.
I don't know about anybody else, but if something comes up in any time in the near future where anything I'm involved with could use someone with your background, I'll remember your name.
Appreciate it. Thank you very
And
much.
I hope we haven't seen the last of you.
Good luck with the baby.
Yeah,
Yeah,
congratulations.
3 weeks,
Beg your pardon?
3 weeks.
28th. It's like 60
Wow.
days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get some sleep now.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, very good process this time. Worked well.
Yeah. That's smart.
That's tough.
All right, I think
We adjourn.
Second.
moved and seconded that the planning board be adjourned. Mr. Delamole?
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger?
Aye.
Mr. Wood?
Aye.
Mr. Venkatraman?
Aye.
And Mr. Robbins votes aye. Motion carried unanimously. The planning board is adjourned for tonight. You guys get to stay here.
We will.
In fact, I think I'll stay here too, just
Okay,
We always enjoy company.
thanks.
seeing
Bye.
all the rooms
Coming in.
otherwise almost empty.
Moving on.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Fiona, for coming in as well. Moving on to appointments, select board, Mr. Alamo.
Madam Chair, I move the board vote to appoint Philip Holohan as an election worker.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Appointments by the town administrator, William?
So there are two on the agenda. 3A is the appointment of our new data collector, Jamie Corbell, who was here this evening. We went through, the full advertisement process. We held 3 interviews. Jamie was the successful candidate. She started today. We are very much looking forward to working with her.
Great. Okay, Mr. Alamo?
Madam Chair, I move the board vote to affirm the appointment of Jamie Corbell to the position of data collector.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and welcome to Jamie. And planning conservation assistant?
Yep, so this is a newly created position serving both of the departments. The successful candidate, Jack Henderson, is actually an internal candidate. He currently works for the Treasurer Collector's Office. He went through the interview process, interviewed quite well, and will be starting in that department on the 18th.
Great.
Great.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I move the board vote to affirm the appointment of Jack Henderson to the position of Planning Conservation Department Assistant.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, moving on to new business. We have a license, new Nico's Pizza. Is there anyone here? Yeah, okay, great. Come on up. Is it Nico or Neko?
Nico,
Okay, good.
how you doing?
Great.
My name is Nico Salome.
Good to meet you. So what's going on over there?
Oh, well, the man that I met there that owns the building, he's putting a dispensary. He has a unit to its left that was already like in a condition like ready, set, go. Excuse me. So I'm gonna do like a half pizza, half burrito place. Because, I'm looking at the area, I'm not sure what's going on, I'm new to Grafton, okay? And whoever has come visited the area right there where the location is, I'm not sure if everybody knows exactly where it is. It kind of looks like Freddy Krueger's living like across the street or something, okay? But I'm thinking
Gray house.
I'm thinking dispensary, and I'm thinking the Tufts College. Burritos and pizza. If you don't like pizza, you're gonna like burritos. If you don't like burritos, you're gonna like the pizza. That's what I would like to do.
Okay,
Great.
great. Any questions? Go ahead.
So there is some commercial expansion that's going to be going on there soon, so it should look a little less nightmarish. Right. Yeah, we all learned that because my father did the same thing. He came and he was like, "You're gonna open up here," and I was like, "There's new development over there, Dad. They're gonna be doing this. They're gonna be doing that." Yeah. He's like, "All right, don't tell nobody." That's my father. So yeah, it looks good, and I'm excited, and I hope everything goes well.
Any, Mark?
Madam Chair, is your dad going to be working with you?
He wants to do delivery, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna hire him.
Well, tough boss.
He's gonna comment on our house.
So another question.
Sure.
Do you have other restaurants that you?
I had another place. I sold it, and I wasn't gonna come back and do pizza, but I was gonna go to Worcester. And there was a place in Worcester, but this the gentleman that owns the place where I'm gonna be hopefully opening, he contacted me. I took a look at the place. I ended up saying, "Hey, let's go forward over here in Grafton."
So you know what you're doing.
Yes. When you come into the pizzeria, there's gonna be like a lot of framed reviews. I got about maybe 300 up right now. I got like another 1,000. So some people like me, some people don't, but I got a little following, so I know what I'm doing. It's very good.
Great.
Where do you live?
I live in Norwood. I'm gonna be moving
That's a hell of a commute.
somewhere around here.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Nice.
Great.
So, welcome to Grafton.
Thank you.
Appreciate you diving in and opening a business here. We love new business, so and I wish you all the success in the world. You get the train station down the street.
Yeah,
You know
we
what I
do.
mean? So people getting off the train,
Sure.
and be convenient for them as well. Anything that we can like do to help you, or is there anything that
No,
you
I'm
need
pretty-
to know about the town? How's the process been?
It's been fantastic.
It's good.
Yeah, very good. I'm
So the
surprised.
ovens, is it the pizza place that was there? Is it
No.
Okay.
The pizza that was currently there, I think it was called Enzio's.
It was.
And it's like a beer and wine place now. So that's that place. I think I'm taking over like something that had to do with ice cream, maybe.
In the front, yeah.
Oh, in the
Yes.
front portion. Okay, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Great.
That was my son's first job in that ice cream.
Was
place.
it?
Yeah.
Do you know when you're gonna open?
Yeah.
After tonight, I'm gonna need to do a final walkthrough with the building commissioner. And I just submitted everything for the health inspector. He's to follow.
Yep.
And if everybody's happy, I guess I can open.
So the equipment's in there, and
Everything's in there. It's already decorated, equipment's in there.
Great.
I just have to do a sweep and a mop, and that's it.
good. Well, you got a good neighbor in Pecorino. Simone is.
Oh yeah,
great.
she's very good.
She's fantastic.
She's very good.
Matt, did you have something?
Yeah, just, I'm a huge fan of burritos and pizza.
Okay.
So, I'm looking forward to the opening. What kind of pizza are you gonna have?
I'm actually gonna do. So this time, I'm known for having several kinds of pizza. Like I do New York pizza, but in New York you have like a grandma square pie, you have a Sicilian, you have the round. I decided to do one size, 14-inch pizza, but the other pizza that you could also get is gonna be a Detroit style. So I kind of win you over both ways, and then with the burritos. If you want French fries or a sandwich, I don't know what to do for you. But so,
You got my mouth
Yeah.
watering already.
All right.
I cannot
I
wait.
think you had us at New York style.
Thank you. Detroit's very good too. A lot of people love
Detroit,
Detroit. A lot of people
yeah.
don't know what a Detroit is.
What is that?
A Detroit's like similar to a Sicilian, but it's a little bit more softer. It has like burnt edges. It's crisp. It's thick. But you're gonna have to come and experience. I'll have them. I'm
that's
gonna
not a
be doing
problem.
slices too, so people don't necessarily have to buy a whole pizza.
Sweet.
It's square too. It's a square.
Yeah, it's square pizza. Yes.
Andy, did you have?
Two comments, I guess. Following up on Matt, same boat. Love a good pie, love a good burrito. Our town administrator is a big burrito fan, so it can go a long way there. Yeah, are you going to be planning like a grand opening or a kickoff or maybe a soft launch you'd want us to attend and sample? Or
When you come in, you guys can sample. You guys can sample whatever you like. And as soon as I do the walkthrough with Tracy and she's happy, and Devon here, Mr. Thornton, and they're happy, then I'll have a better idea because Thanksgiving is around the corner. I don't want a grand open on Thanksgiving Day. I think I might have to wait till December 1st, maybe.
Yeah.
You know. But at least I'm hoping the sign will be up from like maybe the 22nd to for me time to open, and I'll put something on the window.
Great.
So you could be open this weekend?
No.
Next weekend?
It's the next weekend.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe.
Got to get the board out.
All right, well,
Right,
you,
right.
you decide to do some test run of pies or anything like that.
Yeah, I'll bring you guys some samples. I'll bring you guys some samples.
We accept.
I just had a question. So the hours, I'm assuming that's like hours of operation, there's no music or anything, because like the hours.
No. I'm gonna have maybe a TV or two,
Yeah.
or maybe a little speaker for something.
Okay.
Some kind of music.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
Nothing
just-
loud, no entertainment or anything.
Yeah, no worries. It just, I think that, I was thinking that maybe that the hours there kind of went under the wrong.
What can you remind me what hours I put down?
10:30 to 8:30, 7 days a week.
8:30. You guys, no. What do you guys think about that? Do you think I should stay open any later in that area, or do you think that's good enough? That's good enough, right?
I think so.
It isn't like we're gonna get like a college crowd from up the street, right? It's a veterinary.
There's no on-campus
Not at
housing.
that time.
Oh, there isn't.
No.
Okay, so 8:30 is perfect.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
And I mean, my understanding in town is, we have a lot of food money leaving town.
Right,
There's-
because
there's still
everybody
a big
tells me there's nothing to eat here.
Well, there is, but
Right.
there's still a big opportunity for
Sure, for some different-
dining
different
establishments. I read something about the statistics of like how much money is leaving the town in that respect. So I think you'll find that you'll probably quickly capture a loyal following.
I hope so.
Yeah. Okay, so any other comment from the board?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I move the board vote to approve a common victualler license for Smack Pizza Incorporated, doing business as Nico's Pizza at 135 Westboro Road.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion made, passes 5-0, I'm sorry. Super excited.
I'm
Welcome.
super excited
It's
too.
great.
Thank you guys
Fans
so much.
allowed in there?
Thanks for
You
thinking
think
of
Jets
us.
fans allowed? You're not gonna allow Jets fans in there?
Jets fans, yeah, they can come in.
Ugh.
Ugh.
Just on Sundays at
Then I'll see you
7:30.
No Yankee.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving along to, we have a one day beer and wine license. And actually, just to zip back for a second, I think that this could be an opportunity for what we talked about at our goals meeting in terms of, doing
Yeah.
something for a new business and
Yeah.
maybe have Amber draw something up, so. Okay, sorry, so anyone here from Broken Creek? Or would it be from the Alpaca? Is that this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope,
No hands on Zoom.
okay. So
Ma-
this is,
Madam Chair.
yep,
This was one that I had questions on anyways. I didn't see any times listed in the application, which isn't a huge deal, but I don't believe they provided us with any tips information either. So even had we a representative to speak on this, I would have suggested we amend the motion pending the tip certification.
given that the event isn't until, it looks like the 30th,
Correct.
we could potentially push this onto next week's agenda.
Yep.
And hopefully get a little bit more information than was presented, relative to the times, and then good call there on the necessary documentation.
Thank you.
Okay, and we do have time, next week to give them ample time still, so that's great. Moving on to the Apple Tree Arts at One Grafton Common. I see Liz. Hi,
Hello,
welcome.
thank you.
So what's going on up there? This is part of your Claflin series?
Yes, it's a 3-concert series. This is the first of this year. And, they'll do a little chamber concert. I think it'll be clarinet, violin, piano, maybe. Sort of he's calling it a cabaret of different types of music. I think some show tunes and different things like that. And we generally have offered a bar with wine and beer for those concerts, and it's always been pretty mellow.
Any questions from the board? Okay,
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I move the board vote to approve a one-day beer and wine license for Apple Tree Arts on Sunday, November 23rd, 2024.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Great. Hope you have a successful event.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming in. All right, and moving on to this, the Harding Street, looking at, this is going to be another, non-public way that we're looking at trying to move in that direction, and the first order would be to have the DPW, look at creating a layout for that. Is there anything,
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Madam Chair,
Mr. Daphne?
I move the board vote to order the Department of Public Works Director to create a layout plan of Harding Street.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion moves 5-0. The word I'm looking for. It does move though. Mercy. The next item was discussing meeting minutes, and this is something that I asked to put on the agenda, and this is kind of going back to when I first got on the board. Kind of have this habit of looking through all the meeting minutes, and I think in part an effort to help people, the public, get information. Having updated meeting minutes for all committees and boards, I think is important on the website. So as I looked at them again within the last 10 days or so, and probably like a dozen or so that just had such outdated minutes. And I'm not talking necessarily even going like way back, but even, recent. So I know that Will was going to reach out, or Amber maybe to reach out today to the clerk. So trying to figure out, like, is it sometimes there's a stop at the clerk's where maybe the minutes get there and they're just not getting posted. So to try to just make sure that everybody is working toward the same goal of getting minutes done as soon as possible following meetings. And I don't know if you've ever been the clerk or secretary that actually does the meeting minutes, to have minutes like that are a year in arrears is a brutal place to be. So my understanding is that the clerk's office actually next month is going to send out a reminder to all of the boards and committees relative to this. I just wanted to put it out there as my personal little pet peeve, I guess, or just something that we can hopefully try to continue to do better as a town in general.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thanks for indulging me. Okay, so next is to choose a representative for the Tufts pilot negotiation. So this was something that Ray and Mark were our negotiators, and we are down now, obviously down Ray. So just want to see who, if anyone might be
Madam Chair?
interested. Yeah.
I'd like to continue to do that. There's certain things that everybody does, and I thought that was a really cool first meeting, and I definitely think there was some really goodwill anticipated that was happening during that discussion, and we anticipate some good things happening going forward. One of the people I asked about that was Craig, because he had sort of laid out the first program with them. And I'd say, I mean, I didn't ask Craig, so I don't know if you'd be interested, but I'd love you to join me, because I am learning that part of it, and I'd like to continue doing it and learning from you a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I did a little bit from Ray.
Yeah, be more than happy to serve.
Anyone else with a desire to?
I'd be interested to have a little bit of continuity. So I was in the discussions about the pilot and have been sort of tracking this topic all along. So I definitely have some interest.
Okay.
So it was weird going through this and seeing my name on there from 10 years
Yeah.
ago. You know, this was actually the second one that we did with Tufts. There was the first one that was the original one, which there was no escalation. It was flat rated for the first 10 years, and we went and sat with them. There was a different group there. I think they've all pretty much retired or moved on. And we're like, we can't flat rate this anymore. Costs increase. So we actually got a big initial bump, and then we incorporated it's like a 2.5% increase each year for the life of this agreement. But it was a struggle to get them, because they didn't want to give us anything. Never mind, an increase, and this hasn't even kept pace with town taxes. But it was a lot better than the original agreement. And like I said, we got an initial good sized bump out of the gate to make up for some losses in the first 10. So it's kind of the history with that.
Madam Chair? Yeah, I think so. I can't speak to as much to the previous agreement, but I think in our discussion we did note that it's definitely not keeping up with our costs in terms of the increases in town. So my expectation, at least going in, whether it's me or Craig, is that we would be negotiating for at least the agreement to keep up with the cost of living and the increases in our costs. So, the town sort of budget tends to go, when you include everything, including the debt service and all the other stuff, 4.5%. So that's really where we need to be at a minimum. And then we had also discussed if they have any plans to expand the campus, and they're going to add additional square footage and buildings, and which they continue to do. We should capture some of that additional growth as well. So.
Yeah, one of the things I think that helped us last time, because it was almost at a stall because they weren't budging and we weren't budging, and I said to Tim, we need to bring some. I said that we can't go back to the taxpayers with something that's not appropriate given the first 10 years. But we asked them what they do for Somerville and Medford, and that got their attention. And then all of a sudden the meetings were over, and they had agreed to what we had asked for, which was reasonable. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Certainly reasonable. So, whoever we pick, it doesn't matter to me. I've done a lot of negotiating through business and through unions, and something I enjoy doing. We should just pick somebody and move on.
Well, I like to give it a shot. I mean,
Yeah, I think that, Mark, you should, this was your position, and I think that if you guys agree,
Yeah,
to continue
absolutely.
on, it's just a matter of filling Ray's spot is how I was looking at it, so, I don't know how to,
Let's take a motion.
okay.
all right, I make a motion, Madam Chair, to include myself, Mark Alamo, and Craig Dauphiné to represent the select board at Tufts to negotiate the pilot program going forward.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, any discussion? And again, no matter which way we go, just like we said relative to planning,
Yep.
We can all be involved, can be involved in some way, shape, or form, but, okay, motion made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so motion carries 3-2. And I don't know if we need, well, you guys can figure out, in terms of the motion, we weren't really voting on you necessarily, Mark, but it's in the motion, I guess, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, did I include myself in the motion?
Yeah, that's okay, though.
It was weird for the third person, but it happened.
No, it's
We
okay.
can't get it, we can't take that back now.
Yes. Okay, so moving along to the right of first refusal on this 40B resale. William, do you want to talk about that at all, or is that pretty?
My general understanding of that is whenever a 40B property goes up for sale, the town has the right to exercise the right of first refusal, and it is now before you to decide whether or not to do so.
Okay. Any discussion from the board on this? Assuming we're not interested in buying it.
Well, it's just that we've lost in the past, years ago, we lost a lot of affordable housing that came up for sale. Back then, nobody was, interested in buying them, and after a certain amount of time, as it says here, it becomes a market rate.
I don't think it is though, right? It remains under, is that true? Or does it remain under, this CHAPA, or whatever it is?
Off the top of my head, I do not know the answer to that question.
Okay.
So I know at least, it may depend on when the 40B development was developed, but anything that's been developed relatively recently definitely has a permanent, in perpetuity, title restriction to be tied to the area median income. I can't speak to all the 40B developments in Grafton though.
Yeah. This does say, if you read the chapel letter, it does say that after 90 days, it can be sold at maximum resale price or market rate, but then it does say it stays in, deed restriction is signed, records in the home remains in the Grafton subsidized housing inventory, but I don't think it stays at a affordable housing rate. Like it says, the rate would be, the unit would go for $233,900, right? So it'd be nice to see somebody have an opportunity to buy that, but after 90 days, if nobody purchases it and the town doesn't, then
Okay.
they can
Right.
sell it for market.
Right,
So,
okay.
it will be
So if there's
basically
no
losing.
eligible purchaser within the 90 days after goes on the market, it
and-
could potentially go to an ineligible.
Right,
So-
and that was happening a lot years ago. I say a
Madam
lot.
Chair, I don't think that's right. The maximum resale price is the price that's set by
Right.
CHAPA, which is the monitoring. That's not market rate.
No, I know, but then down below, because I understood this, I thought it would remain, but on the fourth paragraph, if an eligible purchaser, in other words, someone who's eligible for affordable housing, doesn't purchase within the first 90 days, then it could be sold.
Yeah, but
At a
it's
higher
it's
rate,
still it's still deed restricted, which means the
Still
resale
subject
price
to
is
deed
still the maximum resale price.
Okay.
I'm not a
I know.
I'm not a
Yeah.
professional at this, but
So this might be a different deal than, we were losing, we lost several of them.
I mean, I thought it seemed straightforward, but that was only because I thought it was going to remain as with the restriction. And
I think what this means is if we can't find somebody who's eligible,
Right.
which means they have
Right, right,
80% AMI,
Mm.
their income, then it can be sold to somebody who is above that income threshold.
And so what would the restriction then be?
The deed restriction would be the same, which is it stays as a 40B. It can only be resold at the 80% AMI rate going forward, which that's the deed restriction. It just says it can't be market rate. It has to be in line with AMI. That's all. So I think it's just if you can't find somebody who's eligible for 40B, then you can sell it to anybody. But
And then when
the
they-
price of the home still stays low like
Yeah.
that.
And
If
then when
that's-
that buyer, or when that person goes to resale, it would come back to this.
Yeah.
That's right.
We have some time. I mean, we have till February 17th if we ever wanted to do something. So if maybe Evan can give us a better explanation if we need one, maybe, that's right. And that's the way it is, but we don't have to make a decision tonight.
So then you're saying we should push till next meeting and talk to Evan about this?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Just to clarify.
Is it even listed yet? I mean, it's 90 days from
Yeah, your call.
Yeah. Well,
next week.
yeah, why don't we, I mean, just let's push it off just so that we know what we're voting on, I guess. Or that I know. I feel like I'm a little bit
That's fair.
confused on it. Again, seemed like a no-brainer to me if it was 40B, was gonna get sold that way and that deed remains the same. But let's just make sure on that. Okay, so if we can kick that down to next week as well, just to get clarification. And most likely it's, non-issue, but. Okay, so moving on to voting to ratify the salt contracts.
So you have
Yep.
two salt contracts in front of you. One for the primary supply, which is Eastern Minerals Inc. at $61 per ton. This is down $4.69 from last year. And the secondary supply, which is Mid-Atlantic Salt LLC at $62.79 per ton, which is down $2.16 from last year. Kind of cut and dry, we do these every year. They supply the salt for the roads during the wintertime.
Yeah, I move the board vote to sign the contract with Eastern Minerals, Inc. and a contract with Mid-American Salt LLC as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Jefferson?
It's nice to see the numbers finally come down on something.
And
So-
last year they went down on this too, they said.
Yeah, it's thanks to Kevin and his work over at the DPW.
Any other discussion? Again, not sure this is a big thing, but the Indiana, the Secretary of State document, it just indicates that it expires on October 3rd of 2024. That's for Mid-American Salt, so maybe we can request that they send us an updated
Yep, we can do that.
certificate of existence. Any other discussion? Okay, barring none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then, maybe when we get that, we could just pop it into a future packet so you can see it, okay. And then moving on to a vote to ratify the contract with E.L. Harvey.
So the contract with E.L. Harvey that's before you is for 5 years. It was a little bit delayed due to some discussions between the town and E.L. Harvey's new ownership. Across the entire 5 years, the contract escalates less than $100,000, which is very advantageous for a trash hauling contract like this. It does include the removal of 3 free bulk items from the contract to attend to the need to reduce tonnage and tipping fees. But overall, we think that the contract is beneficial.
Did we put it out to bid? Did we look at? Did we talk to any other suppliers?
We did not. So waste hauling is exempt from 30B procurement, so we pursued a renewal with E.L. Harvey.
And do you know what the amount was for this year? Was it like 725 or something?
FY24 ended at $665,000.
Oh, 665, okay.
So it went up 85 grand.
Mm-hmm.
Thereabouts, yeah.
And you guys didn't go out and solicit other suppliers that could service the account?
So part of the disagreement that came about was with E.L. Harvey being under new corporate ownership, the town asserted that it had 2 one-year extensions. They disagreed. By the time that it was determined that we did have a 1-year extension, E.L. Harvey sort of took the position that it wasn't actionable. And we believe that having the 5-year contract that increases less than $100,000 across that 5 years is an advantageous benefit to the town.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree that, I mean, the amount, it's a big jump this first year, and it sounds like, you know, with the change in ownership, there was some, you know, what, I don't know, confusion might not be the right word, but, whatever, playing around a little bit, but the 5 years that we have, it's not a bad looking contract under, you know, keeping it under 100. So, yeah.
Well, do we have a good relationship with them? There's a sort of a hint suggesting there that maybe there was a little disagreement on something
Well, they've changed, you know.
with the new ownership, I should
yeah.
say.
We have a good relationship with the local rep. He's in quite often talking to us.
And P.S., you know, it's now November. It was started in July,
Right.
so yeah. Kind of. Yep.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yeah, I was I was surprised that you know we entered into talks with Harvey again. Just you know, kind of. I don't mean negatively how things have gone, but you know, I think there have been hiccups since the sale of the parent company there. But in discussing the updated 5-year contract with you and Evan, and the fact that yes, it is a decent jump in year one, but not increasing by $100,000 over the course of 5 years. Really, I agree. Does seem to be advantageous for the town, and you know, with smaller annual increases to the hauling fees and whatnot, it should also help stabilize pricing on town bags and things like that too. Another issue, you know, that we've heard from residents where the cost seems to be, you know, going up by leaps and bounds every year. If the trash contract is not, then bag costs should remain fairly level.
I think that currently we're not even supporting 50% of the bag cost, right? I mean, I think we're close, but
So we've been tracking right at 50%, and when we get significantly lower than that, then it just becomes an agenda item, and we catch up with increasing the fees.
I think the latest increase moved us back just over 50%, but then year 2 it drops to 49 or something like that. Yeah.
but that was maybe before we knew that it was going to go up by like 80,000 from so
Right.
it's going to be below 50% with an $80,000 jump right now.
Madam Chair?
Yep, Mr. Rafton?
Just through you, so William, was there any consideration, I think our original contract with them was for 10 years. Was there any option to have a longer term contract? I think this is a decent contract. I like the sort of, relatively modest increases year over year. Was there an option to extend that to more years?
So my understanding, based on how the contract negotiations went, is that the 5-year term was the longer term offer.
Okay.
That was sort of the longest they were willing to go out, it seems.
And do we have the 2 1-year options at the end, or is that in part of this?
3 and then 2 1 years. Yeah.
So what are we paying now, Will? Like, are we paying this?
$669 right now or something. Well, no.
No, we're in the middle of the first year.
Yeah.
Right. So we're paying the $750 at that rate, whatever, for.
I believe so. Yes.
All right. Okay. So we're paying it now, probably. Yeah, it's just a big jump. I mean, I'll talk to Evan about it, but for that, and maybe and I think overall, I mean, whenever you're doing as much trucking as them, there's going to be, it's equipment, right? And there's a lot of drivers. There's going to be things that happen. I mean, but overall, I think they've done a good job, and I don't want to lose them necessarily, but I think when they go up $85,000 in 1 year, and it's like a 12-14% increase, I think that would trigger maybe making a couple of phone calls, and maybe this is a good deal, but we don't know. I guess that's my point.
I think that that Evan and William feel it's a good deal.
Yeah, I mean, again, we did
Yeah.
discuss going out to bid, but I think with the smaller increase over 5 years, that's what makes the deal appealing.
Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Jefferson?
Less, I guess, discussion, but I mean, that's, I guess, the crux of it, right? Is do we think if we went out and got a contract elsewhere, would that initial increase be larger than 85,000? You know, and then smaller than what the increases we're seeing are, you know, annually after that. I'm not in a position to answer that question,
Well,
but.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
probably would have happened is if somebody wanted the business, they would have lowballed the first year to get in the door to win the contract, and then who knows what they would have done in the past year. Maybe we would have got a 3-year deal, and then 3 years from now they would have jacked it up, and we could be going back to Harvey, and you know, I mean, that's usually how these guys play, you know. So
It's a small field too.
Okay.
It's not like we have a lot of trash haulers to choose from.
right, yeah.
And we're getting rid of the bulk pickups, unfortunately, too, for residents. Okay,
All right, Madam Chair.
Mr. Alamo.
I move the board vote to approve and sign the contract with E.L. Harvey and Sons as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Considering a vote to add Southborough to the rec agreement that we have.
So the town of Southborough approached the Metro West Regional Emergency Communication Center, which is currently Grafton in Westborough, and asked to be admitted. So the way that works is that is discussed at the table for the board of directors first, which is Evan and Christy Williams. They both approved it, and it now goes to the select boards of the 2 member communities. Essentially, what this vote does is it authorizes them to amend the agreement to add Southborough to the document. It doesn't change the substance or anything therein. If it does pass, it gives Southborough the right to request future amendments to the agreement, but that goes through the same process. They discuss it at the table, and then it goes to the select boards for the member communities, and if I'm not mistaken, has to be passed by a supermajority.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that they felt like they have the capacity, the facility has the capacity to take on Southborough.
Yep.
And still obviously be, you know, responsive.
Yes.
And Southborough, just FYI, because this was when I was early on the board, they were one of the original, they were part of this. And then they came out, they pulled out. So for
Now
me,
they want
it's-
back in.
It's, for me, it's positive in terms of
Yeah, they-
seeing them come back in.
Waffled a little bit, but it seems like they have finally committed to wanting to be a part of it.
All right.
Madam Chair?
Sure. Yep.
So, yeah, I think from the very beginning, what we had discussed was that they would build extra capacity with the hope that we could have additional communities. So the benefit of having the additional communities mostly is that we share the costs more ways. So it just, you get a lot more efficiencies the more communities you add. So, you know, in my mind at least, this was always the plan. And when they originally, had started these discussions, I think they started with 4 or 5 communities. And then I think what happened was a couple of the communities, they just weren't sure. But now that they see that it's actually developing and moving along and, you know, they're hiring a director and all that kind of stuff, there's renewed interest in it. Because for all the communities, they're all facing the same things, which is you get to that point where you need to upgrade so much equipment. It just doesn't make sense. And it's much, much more difficult to do it on your own without all the state subsidies. So, you know, I'm in favor of this for sure.
If anything, I felt a little unnerved as the communities were leaving, right? It was
Same.
down to just the 2 of us, so it's great to see, particularly one that was interested initially to be coming back.
It's kind of a vote of confidence
Yeah,
for what they've been doing.
Totally. Okay, do we already make the motion in second?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Sorry. Did we?
No.
No, sorry.
We've not.
Any further discussion before we take the motion? Okay, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I move the board vote pursuant to Section 7L of the Agreement for a Metro West Regional Emergency Communications District to include the town of Southborough as a participating community and further to amend the agreement to reflect such changes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Great.
Welcome aboard Southborough.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back.
I think it was Hopkinton was the other community at the time. Yeah. Okay, so talking about starting to look at preparing criteria for the fire chief eval, which I think will be in July or there sometime in the late spring or
Closer to the end of the fiscal year. Yeah.
So William was good enough to send us along a couple of snapshots from other towns in terms of what their performance appraisals look like. And so maybe just kind of we can start to talk a little bit about this. We certainly have some time to make sure that we come up with a tool that we all like. So just kind of going to open that up to you all.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jefferson.
I found the reviews that Will assembled to be, an interesting read. It seemed like we all kind of do things in a very similar fashion, but the scoring from town to town is kind of wildly different. I liked the Plainville Fire Chief evaluation. I think it's the only direct fire chief evaluation we had. The other ones were more departmental. And even that one, it really seemed similar to the department head reviews, but they added the emergency management criteria toward the end, and which also seemed very relevant in the fire chief's role. To me, I felt like the Plainville example was a good starting point for us.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. I think the challenge for us in evaluating both the fire chief and I find this with the town administrator as well, is it's difficult to assess things like decision making and sort of management style and other things that we're not necessarily exposed to on a day-to-day basis. But I thought the Plainville example was a pretty good one. I would tend to something a little less formal to start with the understanding, I guess, that we're just getting to know the fire operations and all that, and it's kind of early days. So, frankly, I'm not sure what I would set for objectives for the fire chief at this point. So I'd be in favor of starting, on the simpler side of things.
Mm-hmm. I thought, again, like the Plainville was the one that was the fire that was, pertinent to that as opposed to just general department heads. So I thought that also would be a good starting place. But then also looking at our current eval that we use just for department heads here in general, the way that's kind of formatted more in like general criteria, I suppose. So somehow taking the Plainville one and getting rid of chunks of it to make it just a little less overwhelming, I suppose, in some ways, and less specific. So I kind of came up with some sections that I thought like under the HR, like getting rid of A through D, and the rest was good. So just little tidbits of areas that I thought we could just pull some of that out and start a little bit smaller, and then I agree that the scales, again, I've done a lot of performance appraisals over my career, and the scales were kind of wildly different. And I actually thought that the Northborough scale seemed the most relatively basic and made the most sense. I don't know if it was the Plainville one that had all the verbiage in it. Okay, yeah. So that seemed like a lot.
Was the Northborough one that went up to 2?
No.
Like 0, 1, 2? That
no,
one intrigued
that
me.
one wasn't great. I didn't think either. So no, Northborough I think was a little bit more along the. I think it was either 4 or 5. Like excellent down to essentially incompetent. But just a basic scale. Exceeds. Middle of the road is 3, and down you go. So I guess maybe what we can think about doing is just compiling some feedback to send in, or I don't know, how do we want to kind of
So we can
Maybe
always
mark
take
something up.
what's been discussed here
Uh-huh.
and try to start pulling a document together. And if there's anything in particular that comes up over the next few weeks that you like or don't like, you can always send that along to Amber and I, and we will apply that to the document.
Great.
So it sounds like maybe looking at the Plainville one, tapering it down a bit, and then I'm pretty sure, I mean, I wrote, it was the Northborough scale. I can confirm when I go home to confirm that it was at 5.1, but I thought that one seemed to be the most easy to digest and typical with about most performance appraisals I've seen. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
Yeah, just quickly, I think in the same way that with the town administrator, we pick department heads to speak to. I think for the fire chief, it would make sense potentially, because he's got good working relationships or close working relationships with both the town administrator and police chief. It may make sense to sort of take that same approach. So you have a select board view, but you also have a sort of working view with some of the colleagues and peers in the organization.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, this is obviously for me out of my lane, evaluating fire chief. So would certainly look to people in his department for feedback, his admin, and like you said, other people in our town. Yep. So yeah, we can, once we get the tool and the rating scale, maybe then we can talk about, who we might want to include in that in terms of getting feedback from different sources. Okay.
I like that.
Okay, great. Anything else on that? And that's good. We've got some time, so that's great. And thank you, Matt, for bringing it up at the goals meeting to get us going. Okay, moving on to, nope, not new business. Select board reports?
Nothing from me.
Okay.
I mean, Matt and I just attended the first TRICOM meeting.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Just before this meeting. So, yep, just a quick organize the board, reviewed the budget at a very high level. Looks like there's a bit of a shortfall for 26 that needs to be looked at. And we set up a meeting for coming up in early December to go through that detail, or to go through that budget in a little bit more detail. So we can have good information to share with our residents and for them to understand what they may or may not be looking at.
Great. Thanks.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Often?
Yeah, so, did the TRICOM immediately before this meeting. The Affordable Housing Trust met as well. That was mostly an update meeting, updates on 1727 and 25 Worcester. And then I attended a really good, it was basically a peer discussion with some of the planning departments, and there were some housing trust people and various people that involved with zoning and approvals and that sort of stuff on, there's a new accessory dwelling unit law that's going into effect pretty soon. So the state is requiring towns to have zoning that allows development of accessory dwelling units by right. So that would be, we currently have like an in-law apartment bylaw. It would be something similar to that, but it would be much more permissive, and it would allow development up to 900 square feet. Yeah, just a couple of notes on that, I guess. A really great discussion, and I think it was actually organized by Fiona, so she continues to just perform really well in that role. It's a really inclusive law, so you can't, for example, require owner occupancy. You can't require special permits, so you can do site reviews, but those would have to be done by the building department. So it is going to have some impact on the building department. So if we get a lot of those, there could potentially be an impact in terms of resourcing there. And overall, I heard the comment that there are some gaps or some vague elements in there, and the expectation is that there's going to be likely some things will go to court to decide on some of those more vague parts of the law. So it's not really prescriptive. So as with a lot of the zoning things, it's going to have to sort of weave its way through the court system to figure out how the language that's actually in the legislation is going to be interpreted actually by planning boards. So there's going to be some uncertainty for the coming years, I would expect. It's all in service, obviously, of housing production and trying to support like multi-generation type of housing. So it was really interesting, and I got a lot out of that. So I thank Fiona for putting it together. That was hosted by CMRPC.
Great. Mr. Jefferson?
I do. I have a few. So I attended the Water District's tour of the East Street well towards the end of October. Attendance wasn't great, but as a result, it gave people the opportunity to get more personalized tours and partake in some QA. They had the new informational brochures available that they had discussed at their previous meetings. They're located across town. They had some at the library at the time. I believe they have some at the municipal center by now. I hope they continue to host these. It was educational. It was great to get in there and see the facility and hear them discuss upcoming changes with the PFAS additions and the Worcester Street well. They also had some more information on the water moratorium. 2 Boy Scout thank yous. First, I was invited to discuss the role of the select board with some Webelos in PAC 243 in Sutton. The kids had great questions and concerns. As you can imagine, it was sidewalks and school lunches. They really had great questions, and they're going to be some engaged young voters. I suspect the Sutton School Committee might be unhappy with me because I told the kids that they're free to email them at any point and discuss their concerns over the school lunches. So hopefully there's no blowback over that. But I'd also like to congratulate Ryan McCool on achieving his Eagle Scout rank last week, and thank Troop 106 for inviting me to be a part of his board review. His particular project involved improving walking paths around Wendell Field and Millbury. He shared with us a report and a video of the completed project and discussed which badges were his most and least favorite to work towards. I want to congratulate Grafton Rec for another amazing trick-or-treat event here at the Municipal Center on October 30th, and thank all the departments for their creativity and participation as well. A lot of us board members stop by the Municipal Center periodically, so it was really fun to see the door decorations and themes come together as everybody worked on that. Then the following day, I got to guest judge the Crazy Hat contest at the Senior Center and call a few rounds of bingo, which is something I have always wanted to do, as lame as that may sound, but it was great. And then on the second, Anne Marie and I were able to attend the dedication of the new flagpoles at the old cemetery, one for the U.S. flag and the other for the Hassanamisco Nipmuc Band, who have people buried there as well. Chief Hawley and other members of the band were able to attend along with our state reps. It was a really touching ceremony that continued over in Veterans Hall at the Municipal Center, where we dedicated the new plaque to the Vietnam veterans who didn't appear on the previous one. And I just want to give a big thank you to Andy and Ann Shellberg. Both of the projects that we celebrated that day came about as a result of Andy's work to identify and geolocate grave sites of armed service members around town who weren't getting their proper veteran recognition. So that's something he's worked on with several Boy Scouts for their Eagle Scout projects, and has brought a couple of the projects back to this board and the town to discuss. And just grateful for his efforts there. So that's it, and thank you.
Except one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, Anne Marie was there too. We went to the Grafton Land Trust annual dinner meeting at Highfields last week, and it was well attended, and they brought in a speaker from the Blackstone Heritage National Corridor, who was great, who told basically the history of the valley and the river, obviously included in that, but the whole Industrial Revolution and a lot of the people that kind of were instrumental in this area from Worcester, all the way down through through Rhode Island, and it was really interesting. Learned a lot, and he was a great storyteller and did a great job. So it was a good evening.
Yeah, forgot about that. I had the master plan committee meeting recently, and we were discussing the economic development chapter as well as the recreation chapter. I believe we're close to the end, if we're not at the end of the chapter, so then kind of looking at the whole thing as a big picture and teasing it out. So that information should be available on the website if people want to check out to see the progress that we're making with that committee. And yesterday I was fortunate that I was able to attend the Veterans Day ceremony in South Grafton, and it was lovely. So I just wanted to give kudos to all those who continue to pull that together every year. Okay, and so that's it for Select Board report. We can move on to the Town Administrator report.
Fantastic. So just keeping in the general format, as a update on some DPW projects, 2 sidewalks ongoing. Millbury Street is currently under construction. They're repaving from the school to the town line. If you've driven down that road recently, they're doing work on both sides of the road. It's pretty cool to see all that equipment out there. The North Street sidewalk project, which is being funded through ARPA, is currently ongoing. In the State Sutton Depot Street Bridge project, they had a public safety site walk last week, I believe with representatives from the state, Sutton, and Grafton, and they are looking at a late fall bid and an early spring start for that project. Fitzpatrick Road Bridge, that's a town project. The bid notices went out this week actually, so it'll be in the Central Register, the newspaper, all of the required places next week, and we'll be getting bids before the end of the calendar year. George Hill Road, Fay Mountain Road, Soap Hill, Leland, we're still looking at a fall bid process for that. Some municipal project updates. The cupola at the library is finally completed. It looks fantastic with all the scaffolding down. They've replaced all the rot. They fixed some of the copper flashing up at the top, so it is now watertight. The next step for that is they're going to put up some scaffolding in the historic room, chip away at the ceiling, replaster it, repaint it, and look like new. The rec is still meeting weekly. A new member as of tonight, depending on how the Westboro vote goes. 95 North Street, the park that's up there, we are in a position where we believe that we can revise the old bid documents and complete the project on budget. So I don't know if you've been up there recently, but DPW's been doing a whole boatload of work, and the backfield and the path it's looking good. And I say whole boatload because they found several abandoned boats in the back, which is interesting. Other updates, everything below feedback is where it was last time. I want to keep feedback on there just so people are aware that we are still in contact with DEP and the AG's office. We are continuing to monitor the odor complaints and continue to take that situation seriously. Finally, as Andy alluded to, we had the friendly trick-or-treat on October 30th at 3 o'clock. Getting back to some staff recognition, want to give a shout out to Adam, Cody, and Mary in the Recreation Department for putting together a phenomenal program.
Nice.
I think all in, we had between 2 and 250 kids in the span of about an hour. Several little Marios. We're very excited to see the big Mario and the princess. So it was just a great community event all around. So yeah.
Any questions for Will? Andy?
Comment first. Amber made an amazing Princess Peach. She was great. Also, I think Fiona was Queen Frostine from Candyland.
Yep.
The kids were just lighting up. It was amazing. But the question with the rec, what is the deciding factor, or do you know what the deciding factor would be if Westboro votes against it and Grafton is, we're at a 1-1 stalemate here?
So according to the agreement, amendments have to be a supermajority, and I believe in the case of a 2-member body, a supermajority is 2. Mm-hmm. So if Westboro votes no, Southboro's not in.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Oh.
Anyone else? Any questions for Will? Okay, moving on to correspondence. Anyone have any correspondence they want to highlight? I just wanted to say, on two things. There was a letter relative to the water district or the issues with the water, and that member of the public is aware of tomorrow's meeting, but there's a meeting at 7:45 tomorrow morning at the Grafton Water District building on Millbury Street, right at the corner of 122. So if anyone in the public is interested in going to that to see what's going on and express any concerns. And then additionally, relative to the correspondence on the crosswalk on the Uncommon Cow side of the common, I will just highlight that we did just put in the lighted walkway, lighted crosswalk. I know that there's been other correspondence relative to the other side of that same, going from kind of where the old bank is over. So I would encourage people to reach out to the Traffic Safety Committee and perhaps, get on their next agenda to bring up some of those concerns and see if we can do something better with those areas. But I do appreciate the correspondence. Okay, moving on to resignations.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo.
I move the board vote to acknowledge and accept the resignation of Patrick Hugel from the Conservation Commission.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any good discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo.
I move the board vote to acknowledge and accept the resignation of Walter Lascos from the Cable Oversight Committee and Council on Aging.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion made or carries 5-0. Okay, any public comments? Anyone here in the room? Mr. Robbins? No? Anyone?
Unless you want me to say something, and I don't think you do.
No.
It's open to anyone who wants to say something. Anyone online?
No hands on Zoom.
Okay, so we can move on to meeting minutes.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo.
I move the board vote to approve the meeting minutes for May 11, June 9, June 16, and June 21 of 2015 as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Jefferson?
That last one is July 21. You said June.
Okay. So we'll amend the motion for it to read July 21st, 2015. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries with that amendment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are adjourned and we